So we are joined tonight by Catherine. Catherine, thank you so much for being able to come and share with us this evening. So Catherine is the Chief Executive of ACET. So ACET supports numerous healthcare projects across the world, but Catherine's going to share with us tonight about ACET Nigeria. So their particular focus is in terms of HIV and AIDS and trying to stop the disease from spreading. I mean, we are obviously all aware of the conflict that's going on in Nigeria, probably not the half of what's going on. But Catherine's just going to share with us tonight about what the team are facing as they try to support people through this healthcare ministry as well. So, Catherine, it's over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And thanks everyone for turning out. It's great to see all of your faces. Some of you I know, some of you I don't. But yeah, thank you very much for being here. I'm just going to hopefully share my screen. And let's get. There we go. So, as Hannah said, I work for ACET UK. And that is AIDS care, education, and training. We came out of the HIV pandemic back in the early 80s as a compassionate Christian response, and we are in 15 plus countries around the world. But this evening, we're going to be focusing on ACET Nigeria. So I just wanted to introduce you to Sunday Musa, who is the CEO of ACET Nigeria. He is a lovely, gentle, compassionate guy. I was just saying earlier to Hannah, complete opposite of me. I get excited about stuff and wave my arms. He is calm, speaks slowly, and just has an enormous heart for the people of Nigeria, and has become a really good friend. Now, just in case you don't know too much about ACET Nigeria, we have got 148 volunteers on the ground. We've got 6 staff in Jos in the head office, 5 field staff, and 7 tier fund project people who we work kind of hand in hand with, doing healthcare, education, and positive masculinities. So expect you know a little bit about Nigeria. It's actually 4 times the size of the UK landmass wise, and when I was born in 1970, both had populations of around 55 million, but in the last 50 years Nigeria now has 172 million more people than us. So they've got 240 million now. So that's 4 times the amount of what we've got. And we work in 5 states in what's called the central northern states here. There's a little donut of green around where we work. And I really want to just give you a quick lesson really in why they so desperately need prayer, because I think all of us have heard of Boko Haram, who technically have been defeated, so the president told us, but he now admits that his government is failing to stop the insurgency, which began up here in the northeast. And you can see I've kind of tried to overlay a map so you can see they are everywhere, but the darker red bits are where they are really expanding and have taken a hold. And this group have led to the deaths of almost 350,000 people and forced millions of people out of their homes. They levy taxes on farms. There's an awful lot of farmers, and also on the sale of their agricultural goods. So this map is from last year, July, just showing where they are most active. And then if that wasn't enough, you can just see, I'll put that over there on the left. This next map shows where there have been violent disputes between nomadic animal herders and farmers who actually have farms and stay in the same place. So again, you can see all this purple area, and the darker purple is where there's been bigger disagreements. And it's mainly over land use and water and grazing routes. And of course, it's been exacerbated by climate change and the spread of the Sahara Desert. So all the herders are moving down looking for better pasture. And again, thousands have been killed over these clashes for the limited resources, especially here in Benue State where we work. And some people have blamed these nomadic bandits, as they're known, for kidnapping. So one of the things I'm sure you will have heard of, the scariest threat really for families in Nigeria, is the frequent kidnapping of school children, literally from their classrooms and their boarding houses. And ACET Nigeria have had several of their own staff children taken as well. So no one is immune. And over 2,500 young people have been abducted directly from their schools, with half of that number in the last 5 years. And generally, they're not released unless you pay thousands of US dollars as a ransom. And yeah, so these kidnappers are commonly referred to as bandits. And you can see again these darker green areas. You can see on the kind of east side of Nigeria. And in fact, in that area last year, 11,500 of the schools closed following the abductions. And children as young as 3 are being seized. And it is a very lucrative industry. So it's expanding into what were previously safe areas and is, seemingly beyond control of the country's army. So it's a real threat. And then lastly, we've got Sharia law now in 12 states. You can see the dark green in the north there. Now, amongst other things, that means that you can be publicly flogged or even have hands amputated for theft. You get stoned for adultery, which is far more common for the women than for the men. And there's public executions as well for infidels, so particularly Christians and Jews, but anyone who doesn't have an Islamic faith or who has renounced the Muslim faith is liable for that. So there's a huge amount of conflict going on, and that's why Sunday was quite so delighted when I spoke to him last week and earlier today. He's like, these people are going to pray for us, just us. This is amazing. So he's really excited to have you guys holding them up in prayer. So this is the main thing that ACET Nigeria do is HIV education, counselling and treatment if people are HIV positive. Now, we reached just under 12,500 people last year, and whether that's in a schoolroom or a tin roof church or out in the open air, you can see the tree leaves here. ACET Nigeria volunteers are tirelessly sharing the truth about HIV/AIDS, about malaria, and about hepatitis, and they're reaching thousands of people every year. And these powerful community outreaches, the aim is to replace the fear and stigma and ignorance of HIV with knowledge and a godly hope and compassion. But all of this obviously requires movement, and that's what we would really like you to pray for, is travelling mercies and safety in movement, because every day the team are going out into communities where security is poor or non-existent, and whole buses are being kidnapped and the people are driven into forests and held there for huge ransoms. And if it isn't paid, they are killed. And we have lost some of our volunteers this way as well. So it's a real need, and something that the Lord can help them with as, a protector and defender. The other thing that we do there is HIV testing and adherence schemes. We've run these for decades now, and people are really open to being tested. They understand the difficulties of being HIV positive. But the major challenge now in the last year is to actually get hold of the test kits. It was about 20,000 naira, that's about £10 to get 400 tests. And just in this last year, that's gone up to 120,000 naira, which is about £60 for 100 tests. So that's 6 times the amount for a quarter of the tests. So praying for funding and or a cure for HIV, because we are partnering with hospitals and clinics and focusing on pregnant women, because we know that HIV is passed through unprotected sex, but also can be passed what we call is called vertical transmission from a mother who's HIV positive to her newborn child. And so that's been our specific focus now for some years. But the problem is, or one of the other problems is you will have heard last year of President Trump stopping PEPFAR. Now, PEPFAR is the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. And it actually funded around 70% of the global HIV response in 55 countries. So it's absolutely amazing. So we can give thanks to God for that. It saved around 26 million lives. That's 20 million adults and 6 million babies being born HIV free because of the education that they're getting before they give birth. And so that is really something to thank God for. But now we have to reach 40 million people living in the world now. That's around 39 million adults, and again about 1.5 million babies and children. But there isn't the funding. And it's not just the funding for the medication, it's also for what we call antiretroviral therapies. So it's the stuff that goes alongside that. So it's the training about nutrition programs and how to eat more healthily. It's about the monitoring, the running breakfast clubs to make sure that people take their medication at the same time every day and that they do take it every day. One of the things with the HIV virus is if you stop taking your medication for a day, a couple of days, it can mutate and then become resistant to the medication that you're taking. And then once your CD count drops, you're really, really open to catching anything as your immunity goes down. And so, yeah, we haven't got the transport programs to get people to the clinics because all of that funding has gone as well. So for HIV testing and for funding, and a cure would be amazing. It's been 40 years now, and we still don't have a cure. We have a way of helping you to live extremely well if you're taking your antiretrovirals, but we still don't have that cure. And so referring pregnant women to HIV testing, and then, as I say, into their antenatal care. This is a lady, we'll call her Doris. But she was so traumatized by her HIV diagnosis that she actually couldn't differentiate between colours anymore, because severe trauma and psychological distress can literally stop you seeing colour. Your eyes are fine physiologically, but your brain's response means that you just see shades of grey. And so her life just changed when she found out that she was HIV positive. And we've had some other issues as well, with ladies who have come expecting financial support or food incentives, and we just don't have those, and that has really affected the participation in these programs. So last year we were really excited. We reached 1,500 pregnant women, but we wanted to reach 2,500. So, I mean, praise God for the people that we reached, but we really want to be reaching more people. And again, it's getting to where they are. Some of these are very rural areas. They don't have cars or transport. It's a long way to walk for something that you don't know about yet. And so yeah, we really want to get to as many women as we can, and we do that through the church. We train church leaders, faith leaders, and we've been doing that again for about 2 decades. But it's not working as well as it was in Jos and Kogi, in 2 states there. Only 25% of the trained volunteers have carried on actively delivering HIV education. And some of that is because of the fear of moving around, the fear of being a Christian so openly and overtly. And so last year we didn't run the training with the church leaders specifically. We opened it up to the community leaders as well. And we were really shocked by the number of sexual and gender-based violence incidences being reported through that. So we are taking interventions for counsellings and referrals on a daily basis now from those reports of abuse. And that's why we so dearly want Christians and the church to be more involved, because we have a loving God who models love. We know what positive relationships look like, and we can model those as Christians. And we really need the church leaders to be talking to their congregations and parent forums. That's our earnest desire, to train more gender champions who are faith leaders, so that we just need the Christian leaders to really feel this burden. So if we can, pray for those more church leaders to sign up, but also for all those victims of sexual and gender-based violence who will carry that trauma with them for the rest of their lives. Next, we're looking at the Children's Club. Part of what we do is the education. And we do that with young children in Children's Club and teens in what we call esteem clubs. Every year we train more trainers. Last year we trained 42, and they started up 27 new clubs. They saw 658 small children, so that's under 11, and 804 teens, which was really, really exciting. And then at the end of the year, there should have been 2 teenage camps in Benue and Kogi, but unfortunately we had to cancel one of the camps because of the insecurity. So it goes back to that original slide, this overarching fear that is prevalent throughout Nigeria. So excuse me. If we can pray for the clubs and the children in them, but especially for those leaders to come forward. And you can see the clubs are really well attended. We teach about gender, we teach about equality and equity, and we teach that, equality is good and giving everybody the same, but actually recognizing that we are unique, we're made in God's image, we have different needs. And so giving people what they need, tailored resources to the specific incidents that you're dealing with, is equity, and that's what we really want. It's not just equality, but we get a load of children every week in the different states, in the different schools, and they either run after school or as a lunchtime club. And you can see here Jamila, who's 15, who says that relationships and sex are just not talked about at home or in school or anywhere. And so children often don't even know that they're being abused. Often abusers will say, this is because I love you and because you're special. And as a child, you believe that. And it's only later on that you realize, actually, I didn't want that. It wasn't because I was special and it shouldn't have happened. And also teach them about marriage. In some of the northern states in Nigeria, 80% of the 15-year-olds are married, generally to much, much older men. So if we can teach young people that they do have rights, and that they are children, and we would love them to wait to get married and wait for their first sexual experience. Now, obviously, that's incredibly difficult in the culture that they live in. But we find, at least if they're educated and they can support each other, then they're less likely to be victims of that early marriage, and also to be able to use pills or condoms so that not having that unprotected sex, protecting them from sexually transmitted infections and also from pregnancy, which almost always makes them drop out of school and stop them achieving their dreams. So the other work that we do as well is parenting support. So we're championing the women and girls, but also teaching people to be better parents. If you've grown up in this environment where men are really important and women are not, that's what you believe, that's what society tells you, that's what's all around you. So it's fantastic to be able to take people through the Bible and show what Jesus taught, and just transform those masculinities. And we've been bringing together 20 couples per state to bring in their friends. So each of them reaches out to another couple. We train the first 20 and then they reach another couple, and it cascades down like that, just challenging some of the beliefs that they have from the culture that they've grown up in. And there's a massive impact, and really transformational church growth as people realize that, actually, just like Longi here, that men, women, boys, and girls in the eyes of God are one. They are equal. There's equal value. So there isn't or shouldn't be discrimination. And actually to take their wives, their mothers, their children into account when they're making decisions. It's very much a culture of the man makes the decisions and the woman goes along with it. So even in the churches, bringing this in and showing them in the Bible where it says you can work together. It's not good for man to be alone. You should work in partnership. And just the excitement that they've got something to share, someone to share this burden with almost. Obviously, the women are delighted to be asked, but the men are so shocked that they've been reading their Bibles for so long, and they're like, we didn't know this. And you can see from the smiles on this couple's faces, just how delighted they are to do that. And that really does transform the church and really makes the church stand out so radically, so differently, because of the way that the men treat their wives and treat their children and include them. And so, the impact is amazing. The transformation that happens in churches and the communities around them is fabulous. So just, real praise to God for that, and for the many years that we've been able to do that, but also God will just protect them as they go out to run these different aspects of training and education. And Sunday's asked me if he can cheekily ask you guys to pray for his daughter Victoria. She's 17 and a half. She's just doing her end of school year exams. And her average grade since she started school has been 93%. And she wants to go on to be a doctor. And he said, would that be okay? I said, I'm sure that's absolutely okay. I'll sneak it in at the end. So that's what I've done. But I think that's my 20 minutes up. Has anyone got any questions or anything you'd like to hear more about? I'll stop sharing this bit.
Thank you so much for that, Catherine. I mean, it's beyond a battlefield, really, isn't it? But we obviously pick up bits on the news and things of Nigeria, but you don't even consider the levels of, infighting and things that aren't even terrorist. I think the team definitely need a lot of prayer for encouragement to just keep going. I mean, I was overwhelmed by the list really of what they're having to face. So does anyone have any questions for Catherine in terms of what she's spoken about this evening? If there are any questions that you'd like to ask Catherine, now is your chance.
Yeah, can I ask Catherine? I'm David Keith. I'm one of the trustees with Medical Missions Network is our new name.
Network, yeah.
So it's a very interesting talk, and you're doing an awful lot of work there. But I just wondered, how do you share the gospel and all that? Because as we know, that's the real secret to curing their problems, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's about being made in the image of God. So something that we use often is a glove. They're all very familiar with plastic gloves and rubber gloves. And without the hand in it, a glove can't do what it's supposed to do. And so, as I say, we work almost exclusively through Christians, and until this last year when we've struggled to get the Christian leaders, or some of them in two particular states involved. But everything that we do is works around the Bible. So there's yeah, there's the children's clubs, the teens clubs is what we would see as Sunday school, but with extra bits, extra kind of reiteration really of what does this say about roles and boys and girls and how we treat each other. Because a lot of the kids will know bits of the Bible because they've been brought up in a Christian family. But as I say, society has told them, well, the boys can speak and, you know, the girls just need to be quiet in the corner. So challenging some of those roles and using games and songs to do that. And then as those teens grow and getting the leaders to preach it from the pulpit as well and challenge some of that, it's a kind of two-pronged, top-down, bottom-up approach with working with the young people, but also working with the leaders and their parents, just to challenge some of these societal beliefs, but using the word of God not to back it up, but to say this is, you know, this is what you say you believe. You've got to chop off these cultural norms and follow well. And we've seen with the kids going home and challenging that it's been so interesting. One of the pastors, in fact, was really challenged by his own son coming home and saying, listen, this is what we learned today. It's not how our family works. And he actually rung Sunday up to say, I'm not really sure I like this. And Sunday said, okay, well, let's meet and do this. And they talked about it. And he actually wrote a letter to us here in the UK to say, I've been a pastor for 16 years. I've been preaching. I haven't seen this before. And, you know, my son has opened my eyes. Thank you. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions at all for Catherine?
So, Catherine, can you just explain a little bit more? You obviously mentioned the funding from the US has gone down. Does that basically mean that less people are being treated, or they're just having to be a lot more selective about what they do? And subsequent to that, what are they then trying to do to kind of get back to where they were?
Mitigate it. Yeah, I mean, it does, because it means that the clinics and the hospitals that we've been partnering with, a lot of those are just shut, just overnight, literally. Staff went home and they shut. So yes, it's dramatic impact in terms of, yeah, like I say, not being able to get the tests from the clinics and from the hospitals, so not being able to do the tests, but also the antiretrovirals. And worldwide, I don't know the figures for Nigeria, but worldwide they say it'll be 4 to 10 million people will die as a direct result of PEPFAR being pulled, that funding being pulled. So it's a very difficult one, because although antiretrovirals are supposed to be free the world over, somebody has to pay for them. And if the biggest funder has stopped, you know, we've been doing more education. That's what we've moved into, because obviously if we can prevent it, it doesn't matter that we can't cure it. So that's why we've pushed a lot more in this last year into the teen clubs and the children's clubs, so that even if they are married off early, they've got an understanding of how to keep themselves safe. But yeah, it's a huge problem that we're talking to Tier Fund. We're talking to all the big guys going, oh, what do we do with this? Because yeah, it literally it is life-changing for people, because as I explained, if you stop taking those antiretrovirals for just a few days, that virus will mutate, and you may have to change your medicine strategy, and if it's not available, that really is fatal for people. So it's a very, very difficult one.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I mean, it does, yeah, it seems an impossible task, but equally, We serve a possible God who is, yeah. I mean, it's very challenging hearing about all the situations and just seeing a way out of it. I feel so much for you guys because it's got to be, yeah, it's
Well,
very hard. I
I think
imagine for
that
the
is the
team.
great thing, is that if, you know, if they have a certain hope, you know, then obviously it matters if they die to their children and to their families, but at least they have got eternal life. And that's why we're so keen to get to people through churches and through Christians, because yeah, we have that hope. And it is steadfast and certain regardless. And yeah, what they desperately need is a hope.
Yeah. And it's wonderful to hear about in terms of the discipleship, just how that is taking root and then spreading. I mean, you comment earlier about the peer educators and just the impact that a small few are then
Yeah.
having on so many, because you know it is that discipleship element, isn't it? Is working amazingly. So
Yeah.
it's wonderful to hear how God's working through that. And thank you so much for what you shared. We would love to pray, and there is a lot to pray for by the
There
sounds of
is.
it. So if everyone is happy, we will just take 10 minutes, which doesn't feel enough with that list, but it'd be great to just break out into rooms if we can and just pray through some of the things that Catherine has talked about, and just for Nigeria, and yeah, just the hope that the team needs so desperately right now. So we'll just take time to pray now, if that's okay. Thank you.